All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving into a topic that could seriously change the game. Generative AI for enterprise architecture.
Yeah, this is a big one.
We're talking about software that practically designs itself. And I mean, like, right now, this isn't some far-off sci-fi stuff.
Definitely not. This is happening as we speak. We're talking about systems that learn and adapt in ways we never even thought possible before.
Okay, so I think before we get too far, let's bring it down a bit. For those of us who don't spend all day in the world of tech, what exactly do we mean when we say generative AI?
So imagine this. You've got AI that's not just analyzing data, it's actually using that data to create things, blueprints, solutions, even lines of code.
So it's like AI that can design things on its own.
Exactly. And when we talk about enterprise architecture, we're talking about the backbone of how a business runs its tech, its people, how everything works together. And that's what makes this so exciting because it's ripe for AI to come in and completely revolutionize things.
Okay, so we've got AI designing the systems that businesses rely on.
Hmm.
It's kind of blowing my mind a little. But how does it even work? I've heard of machine learning, but where does that fit into all of this?
Well, think about it. Businesses are creating mountains of data every single day. Customer info, sales figures, supply chain logs, you name it, it's all being tracked. Machine learning is how AI makes sense of all of that. It can sift through all that info and find patterns that we humans would probably never even think to look for.
So you're saying we could have AI that can predict what a customer wants before they even do?
Precisely.
No.
Or imagine a supply chain that automatically adjusts itself based on real-time traffic or even weather events.
Wow, talk about next level efficiency. Okay, so that's machine learning. But generative AI, that seems to take things a step further. It's not just analyzing, it's actually creating solutions.
Right. Think about an AI that can design the perfect layout for a new factory while taking into account thousands of different factors. Or even something like generating a completely personalized user interface for every single customer.
Okay, now we're getting into some seriously cool stuff here.
Yeah.
But how does it actually do that? I mean, what are these algorithms and how do they work?
One of the coolest ones is called a Generative Adversarial Network, a GAN. Imagine two AI algorithms essentially competing against each other.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
Well, you've got the generator, which is kind of like the artist in the scenario. It's creating new designs or solutions. Then you've got the discriminator. It's like the critic trying to figure out if the generator's work is the real deal or not.
So they're constantly trying to outsmart each other.
Exactly. And through that constant back and forth, both AIs get better and better. The generator gets better at creating, and the discriminator gets better at spotting the fakes.
So it's like a constant feedback loop that's pushing the boundaries of what's possible. That's fascinating.
It is. And it's not just about one type of algorithm either. Just like a carpenter wouldn't use a hammer for every job, data scientists have a whole toolbox of these generative models that they use depending on what they're trying to achieve.
Okay, so we've got a good grasp on the basics now. But let's bring it all home. How is all of this actually playing out in the real world of enterprise architecture? I mean, are there companies actually using this stuff to make changes right now? So are there actually companies out there using this stuff right now? I mean, it all sounds amazing in theory, but is it actually making a difference in the real world?
Oh, absolutely. And the results are pretty incredible. I was reading about a global shipping company that was really struggling to optimize its logistics. They had mountains of data about shipping routes and weather patterns and port traffic and all of that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I can barely keep track of my grocery list.
Right. It would be impossible for a human to keep track of all of it. And that's where generative AI came in. They were able to implement the system that could actually analyze all of that data in real time and generate the absolute best shipping routes possible while taking into account everything, even like fuel costs and potential weather delays.
So it's like having a team of expert logistics people, but they work like 247 and never need a coffee break.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
get this, they ended up seeing a massive reduction in their shipping times, like significantly faster. They also use less fuel, which saves money and is better for the environment too.
Okay, so that's a win-win-win for sure. Any other examples of how companies are using this to like solve real problems?
Yeah, for sure. I was just reading about a financial institution that used generative AI to completely overhaul their entire cybersecurity setup.
Ooh, that's interesting. Cybersecurity is so important these days, and the threats are constantly changing. So how can AI even keep up with that?
Well, instead of just trying to stay one step ahead of the hackers, they basically trained this AI on their entire network, like all of its vulnerabilities and everything. Then the AI just ran simulations, thousands of them, to figure out every possible way someone could attack their system.
So it's like the AI is constantly attacking itself to find weak points.
Exactly. And then here's the kicker. Once it finds a weakness, it patches it before any real hacker can even try to get in.
That's incredible. It's like having a security system that's constantly learning and evolving. Okay, so now I know our listeners are probably thinking, all right, this all sounds amazing, but how do I actually get started with this? What advice would you give someone who wants to start using this generative AI in their own business?
Honestly, the best place to start is to just pick a problem. Don't try to change everything all at once, but find one specific thing in your business that you want to improve.
So we've seen generative AI optimizing supply chains, uh, beefing up cybersecurity. It's clearly the real deal, not just hype. But where do we go from here? What's next? Big picture.
That's the question, isn't it? And honestly, I think we're just scratching the surface. The really exciting stuff is yet to come.
Exciting and maybe a little scary too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where does it all lead? How do you see generative AI changing the game for enterprise architecture in the, say, next few years?
Well, one thing that really fascinates me is how this could go beyond just optimizing what we already do. I'm talking about AI that actually designs completely new systems from scratch.
Okay, now that would be a game changer. Paint me a picture. What would that look like in the real world?
Okay, so say a company wants to launch a whole new service, right? Instead of spending months planning it out, they could just feed all their goals, budget constraints, even things like, I don't know, target demographics into an AI, and boom, the AI could spit out a bunch of different potential architectures for that service, complete with cost breakdowns, risk assessments, the whole shebang.
So you're saying it'd be like having a whole team of architects and analysts at your beck and call, but without the salary requirements
Yeah.
and way faster.
Exactly. And not just any old plans. Plans that are designed to be efficient, scalable, cost-effective, all of it right from the get-go. It could completely change how we think about innovation.
Okay, that's seriously impressive.
Yeah.
But it also makes me wonder, with AI doing all the heavy lifting, what happens to the human architects? Do they even have a job anymore?
Right, that's the big question, isn't it? And I think the answer is it becomes about collaboration. Generative AI can handle the data crunching, the repetitive tasks, even come up with initial designs. But it's still humans who bring the creativity, the strategic thinking, the understanding of what people actually need and want.
So it's not about replacing us, it's more like enhancing us, freeing us up to focus on the things that humans are uniquely good at.
Exactly. It's about pushing past our own limited perspectives and letting AI open our eyes to possibilities we might never have imagined on our own.
I like that. So as we wrap things up here, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners as they start to explore this whole new world of generative AI and enterprise architecture?
Stay curious. I think that's the biggest thing. Be willing to experiment, try new things, and never stop asking what if, because generative AI is a powerful tool, but it's up to us to decide how we use it to shape the future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Huge thanks to you for joining us today, and to all our listeners, thanks for coming along on this deep dive. It's clear that the world of enterprise architecture is about to get really interesting, and I, for one, am excited to see what happens next.